Okay, so I've broken this video down into 8 different sections. The sections are going to be development, combat/gameplay, open world, the web swing, suits, stories, theories, and the release date of the game. And I'll let you guys know before I get too deep into any spoilers. I'll give you a time to jump to. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the development of Spider-Man PS4. Right around 2014, after Insomniac Games had finished developing Sunset Overdrive, which was an exclusive for the Xbox One, they started development on Spider-Man PS4. Marvel approached Sony and told Sony that they want them to make a game about a Marvel character and treat it as if it was a first-party RP, similar to what you see from game developers like Naughty Dog and the people who made the recent God of War. They wanted Sony to treat Spider-Man as if it was one of those first-party IPs. So obviously, after Marvel got in touch with Sony was looking for a developer for this new Marvel game, and they got in touch with Insomniac, and Insomniac decided that Spider-Man would be the best character that they would like to make a game about. And everyone at Insomniac is so dedicated, and they all seem like they love the Spider-Man character, they love the universe, they love Marvel in general, and they were just really excited to make a Spider-Man game. And I think what they made here turned out, it's looking fucking fantastic so far. Let's just say that. The combat in Marvel Spider-Man has been called like similar to Arkham, but a lot more floatier and a lot more vertical. And what I mean by vertical is Spider-Man's not always on the ground. He's kicking enemies up, he's swinging, he's kicking them up, he's fighting them, punching them in the air, pulling them down with his webs, pulling them up with his webs. He's not on the ground all the time. A lot of time in combat, you're up in the air fighting enemies in the air. Now, another thing that I've had described to me is by a friend who played a lot of the Arkham series, and he got to play Spider-Man at E3. He said that in Arkham, when you press square or X, whatever console you're on, Batman kind of flies towards the enemy. He'll float towards the enemy and hit him. But in Spider-Man PS4, if you press square or X to punch, you have to actually move the character to the enemy. He won't just fly across the screen and hit them. You have to actually move him. If you press square or X and you're not next to the enemy, expecting it to be like Arkham where he just soars over there and punches the enemy, Spider-Man will end up actually just punching the air. That's the main difference that I've seen between Batman Arkham's combat and Spider-Man PS4's combat. Another big thing with the combat is the ability to interact with the environment. I don't know the extent of this, like how many things you can do. Like if you're just out in the open world, can you just like web a car and fucking use it, or like a hydrant and pull it towards you, or a fire hydrant swinging around or something? But there's certain specific things that you can interact with in the environment and swing around and hit enemies with them and use it in combat. Now every suit has a ultimate similar to an ultimate in Overwatch. The advanced suit has the ability to jump up, do a 360, shoot web balls, and take down every enemy around them. The Scarlet Spider suit has the ability to make 2 holograms that the enemies attack, and it confuses the enemies. And the Spider-Punk suit has an ability where he pulls out a guitar, he strums the guitar, and it does an AoE attack to all the enemies around him. That's the 3 Spider-Man ults for the suits that we have confirmed right now. The cool thing is, though, if you like the ult of one suit but you don't like the look of it, you can change them out. So I can take the advanced suit's web balls and put it into the Scarlet Spider's and replace the Scarlet Spider's holograms with the advanced suit's web balls. So now I can wear the Scarlet Spider suit but use the web balls. It's really cool. I like that they did that because I like the AoE attack on the Spider-Punk suit, but I do not like the way the Spider-Punk suit looks. Now, the world of New York City in Spider-Man PS4 is just as much a character as any of the supporting characters, or even Peter Parker and Spider-Man himself. Insomniac has placed such an emphasis on making the world feel lived in and personal. When Spider-Man lands on the ground, citizens don't just ignore him like they did in the Amazing Spider-Man games. You can walk up to citizens, they say, "Oh my god, it's Spider-Man," take a selfie with you, give you a high five. You can interact with the citizens on the ground. The world's alive. There's natural dynamic crimes, so you can just be flying around and then you see a car get stolen and cops are chasing after this car, and you can intervene and take over the crime. And there's a lot of world building. I mean, you can see the Avengers Tower in the game. You can see I don't remember, the Sanctum Sanctorium or something, the place where Doctor Strange hangs out. So this is connected to a larger Marvel universe. Now, we haven't had it confirmed that we'll see any other Marvel superhero characters. You know, you can see Daredevil's lawyer place. I can't remember exactly what the name of the place is. You can see that. You can go to that lawyer's office in the game where Daredevil works. There's just so much world building here. J. Jonah Jameson, he has a podcast, pretty much. I think of him as like Joe Rogan. Like, there's the Joe Rogan podcast. James Jonah Jameson has his own podcast called Just the Facts with J. Jonah Jameson. And while you're flying throughout the cities, sometimes it'll come on, and Spider-Man, Peter Parker can listen to that podcast. It's just so fucking awesome. The world looks awesome. There's so many vehicles in the traffic. There's so many NPCs on the ground. It really looks like a true New York City. And the main thing that I'm trying to emphasize here is that Insomniac is treating New York City as if it's a major supporting character. They're treating New York City like it's its own character, and it's fucking paying off. Now, one thing that I've seen people like genuinely upset about, like I've seen videos of people yelling because this isn't in the game, is the fact that Insomniac decided not to include a day-night cycle in this game. Now, let me explain to you why I don't think this is that big of a deal. Insomniac has said that they're focusing so heavily on the story of this game, they want to have full control over what time of day it is when you start your missions, and during the time of your missions, what time of day it is, how the city looks. They want that much control to tell you this story that they have to tell you. And my personal favorite thing about a game, the most important thing to me, is the story. That's why I love Telltale games. They don't have the greatest gameplay, the greatest voice acting, whatever, but they deliver such good, solid stories that I just love playing those games. I love a story in a game. It's the number one thing. Insomniac, you do what you got to do to tell me a great story. And once you beat the game, you can change the time of day yourself. So I imagine, as Peter Parker, you go into your apartment, and you can and there's an option, there's a menu, probably lay in the bed or whatever, and you can choose what time of day you want it to be. So you can have it early morning, late afternoon, early afternoon, night, midnight, whatever. You can still change the time of day. So if you want to swing around the city at night, that is still possible. You have full control over that. Like I said, number one thing in my opinion when it comes to games is how good the story is. And if Insomniac is so invested in the story that they're trying to tell us that they want full control over that day-night cycle, they can have it. I don't give a fuck. I'm excited for the story of this game. Now, this is my first true Spider-Man game, okay? I never played Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 2. I've played The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then some fucking game on the Game Boy when I was very young. So, for me, this is probably like the most, like the category where I'm blown away personally. Like the web swinging looks fluid, it looks great, but there's people out there I've heard, like for example, Jake Baldino, he said in his video after he got back from E3 that it was almost as good as Spider-Man 2's web swing, which is like what everyone compares this game to, is Spider-Man 2's web swing. Spider-Man 2 was completely physics based, and it was supposedly the best web swing ever. If I had a PlayStation 2, I would go out and buy a copy of Spider-Man 2 and play it and let you guys know. But for me personally, I think it looks great. You can swing through the city. If you release from your web at a lower point, you fly forward faster. A higher point, you go higher. You can, I believe it's X. You tap X and you web zip, which it was in The Amazing Spider-Man, and I liked that ability. That was a cool little ability. Being able to web zip to a building looks awesome. And then something that I'm really think looks awesome is the ability to do tricks. So when you're in the air, it's in the skill tree. You have to unlock the ability, but once you unlock it, you can do forward, do flips. You can do fucking, like, there's just all these different kind of tricks that Spider-Man can do that looks really awesome. I feel like the Tony Hawk community could really, they haven't had a good skateboarding game in a while. They could really get on playing some Spider-Man and doing tricks. I don't know. I just think that would be fucking awesome. The ability to do tricks looks cool. I really just like everything I see from the web swinging in general. Let me know what you guys think. Like I said, this is the one where I have the least experience. So let me know what you guys think. Web swinging looks awesome to me. I've heard it's almost as good as Spider-Man 2's from people that have played. But I think it looks great anyways. Let me know what you guys think about the web swing in the comments below. Now we have so many suits to go over. Let's just go ahead and jump right in. First things first, we have the advanced suit. It is not the first suit you play in the game. You play within the game. The first suit you start out with is the classic suit, but then shortly after you start going into the game, you get the advanced suit. It's pretty much just the regular Spider-Man suit. You got the red, you got the blue, but then it's got the white spider, which looks really sick. And then instead of the boots, they go for a more realistic approach, and they give him a pair of running shoes. He's got like running shoes on integrated with it instead of the classic Spider-Man boots. Looks really cool. I'm totally digging the suit. It's been advertised as like his main suit for the game. It's completely new suit, by the way, made by Insomniac internally. Looks awesome, and it's just a fucking sick looking suit. Next up, we have the Noir suit. This is about the only picture of it I could get. We've only really had it teased to us. We haven't actually seen it in gameplay. Looks okay. I'm not a big fan of the Noir suit, I'm not going to lie, but I could totally see me using it at night, kind of, you know, playing with it at night. Looks fucking cool. I don't know. What do you guys think about the Noir suit? I'm not a big fan. Next up, we have the Scarlet Spider suit, which is my favorite suit. It's so cool. It's got the blue hoodie. It looks just like it does in that photo there. You saw it in some gameplay. It's got like the white web shooters, which are on the outside. They look like white bracelets on the outside of the suit. It looks so fucking cool, okay? And apparently you get the suit pretty early on in the game, and its ultimate ability is to, like I said earlier, it has 2 different clones that come out that confuse enemies. It's just a really clean looking suit. I'm so glad they adapted this suit like straight out of the comics. It looks fucking clean. I love this suit. Now next up we have the Velocity suit, which is another completely new suit. It's made completely by Insomniac. Looks really cool actually. I'm kind of surprised. It looks really cool at nighttime too. You get the the spider on the chest glows, and it kind of goes throughout his entire body. Looks kind of cool. It looks like a more comic book version of the Avengers Infinity War Iron Spider suit. Looks cool. We don't know what the ultimate ability will be, but I imagine it has something to do with increasing your speed based on the fact that it's called the Velocity suit. Looks cool. Looks cool enough. I like it. Now we have the Iron Spider suit. This is completely exactly inspired by Infinity War. It looks cool. It looks really cool actually. I'm not going to lie. It looks pretty cool. I really hope that they find a way to integrate the extra arms that extend out the back of the suit. That would just blow me away. If like you can climb up a building faster, like the arms come up and stick to the building and launch you forward or something. That would be really cool. This suit looks really cool. Like I said, it doesn't look as cool as the comic book version of the Iron Spider suit, but it really is a clean representation of what the Infinity War Iron Spider looked like, and I really look forward to swinging around New York City in the Iron Spider suit. Now we have the Homemade suit. This is straight out of Spider-Man Homecoming. It looks really cool. I like that they adapted it. I like how it still has the weird eyes, the weird animated eyes for being a homemade suit. Looks cool enough. I'll probably swing around it for a little bit. And if this is the only homemade suit in the game, I'll be happy with it. It's a cool homemade suit. I like it a lot. Now, I saved the worst for last. I hate the Spider-Punk suit. I don't know what it is. It's ugly. Why would you use it when you have, like, the Scarlet Spider suit or the fucking Velocity suit or the classic suit or any other suit in the world? The Spider-Punk suit is disgusting to me. I don't like it at all, and I will probably not ever use this shit. I'll probably fly around once with it and then just put it in the closet forever. I do not like the Spider-Punk suit at all. So from this part in the video out, there's going to be massive spoilers. I'm going to be discussing the story. I'm going to be discussing villains that have been confirmed, and there's going to be theories. I'm going to talk about some theories. So there's possible massive spoilers. So if you don't want to know any big story spoilers for the game, go ahead and click off right now. Thank you for watching. And if you're still around, let's get into it. So the story is the thing that I'm single-handedly most excited about for Spider-Man PS4, and that's just because I can tell how much like work and time they're putting into the story alone. I mentioned earlier in this video that there was not a day-night cycle in this game because Insomniac thought that having the setting being exactly what they wanted it to be, with them having full control of what the mood of the city is and what the time of day is, that they thought that was important to the story they're trying to tell. They're going that in depth with this story. So let's go over what we know with the story so far. So the story picks up 8 years. Peter Parker's 23. He's not in his high school. He's not a he's not a high schooler. He's a college graduate and still living in New York City. He's got an apartment, a shitty little apartment that he can't pay rent for. And the game starts with him in the classic suit that you're seeing on screen right now. The classic suit is the suit that you guys start the game with. The advanced suit comes along later on in the story, about like an hour into the story, as I've heard. So you start off. The first thing that you do as Peter Parker is you wake up in your apartment. He puts on his classic suit, and then he's getting ready to go jump out the window because he hears on the police scanner that there's some shit going down at Fisk Tower with Kingpin. But before he jumps out, a letter slips under the door. It's a notice of eviction or a payment letter, something telling him that, hey, you better pay your rent soon, bitch, or you're not going to have an apartment. He looks at it. He looks at the window. He looks at the paper on the floor. And then he just leaps out the window. He's decided, you know what, fuck that Peter Parker shit. I'm Spider-Man right now. So he's going off to Fisk Tower. He gets to Fisk Tower, and there he meets Yuri. I can't pronounce her last name. I'm not going to try. She's the police chief who I don't believe she knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, but her and Spider-Man have a good relationship because he's developed a relationship with the police force to where he helps out with the police force more. He's more welcomed into the police force. Like in The Amazing Spider-Man, there's a scene where a cop pulls his gun on Spider-Man and tells him not to move. Like, that won't happen in this game. Like, as far as I understand, the police appreciate Spider-Man and all he does in this game. Now we have a lot of gameplay of what happens at Fisk Tower when you first get there. You get there, going up, some police turn on you, and you find out that there's some dirty cops working for the city. I'm not gonna go over little minor stuff like that. I'm gonna hit kind of the big points of the story. So, this is the Kingpin boss battle. Kingpin, Spider-Man obviously defeats Kingpin in this big boss battle, and Kingpin ends up going to prison, and that's Spider-Man's like first big victory. Since he was like 15 in this universe, Spider-Man's always been going up against Kingpin, and Kingpin's been the big baddie. So the way I've had this boss fight described to me, in that it looks like it's like a climatic boss fight. It's very big, and the way I've had it described to me is it's like the end. It feels like a final boss, but it's like in the first 5-10 minutes of the game, because it feels like Spider-Man, this is his victory, this is his triumph, this is what he's been working for 8 years, but we haven't seen all that. But this is 8 years worth of progress to taking down Kingpin, and it feels like a final boss fight at the beginning of a game, which is really super interesting to me. I totally dig that. So Kingpin goes to jail, and after Kingpin goes to jail, things kind of settle down for Peter Parker, as I imagine, and then out of nowhere, these new guys start popping up. The Inner Demons, these people called the Inner Demons, start showing up, and these are the people that are Martin Lee, Mr. Negative. It is his gang that he runs, starts showing up, because the way Kingpin is in touch with Spider-Man throughout the game, almost from a jail cell. He smuggles a phone and he's in touch with Spider-Man, almost helping Spider-Man, because there's a turf war between the Inner Demons, Mr. Negative's gang, that's just showing up into town, and what's left of Kingpin's goons, Kingpin's gang that's out hanging around the city. Those two factions are clashing and going at war. And the way it looks like is, as soon as Kingpin goes to prison, all these bigger supervillains start coming out. You get Electro, you get Electro, you get Scorpion, you get, goddamn, who else? What's that flying bitch's name? I can't think of right now. The Vulture. So after Kingpin goes to jail, you get Electro, you got the Shocker, you got the Vulture, you got Rhino, you got Scorpion, and you got the mystery villain. And the gangs are running crazy. You got all these villains. You got Martin Lee, Mr. Negative running around the city. It's crazy without Kingpin there. Kingpin kept order to the city, but in a very different way than Spider-Man does. Kingpin kept order through violence and through, pressuring people in negative ways, and Spider-Man's trying to do it positively, but it's not working out. He realizes that he kind of needed Kingpin to keep order in New York. So moving on. We find out that later in the story, Aunt May is working at a place called Feast, which is a kind of a Salvation Army type place where they help out like homeless people and stuff. And Martin Lee actually runs this place. Now Martin Lee is the alter ego of Mr. Negative, so you got those worlds clashing. Peter Parker, Mr. Negative's worlds clashing. So Peter Parker has to come to terms with the situation that if his true identity was to be found out by Martin Lee, that his Aunt May could possibly be put in danger because she works for the guy. And it's like Insomniac said that the best Spider-Man stories are where Peter Parker and Spider-Man's worlds collide, and that's definitely happening in this game. Now, moving on to the next big story beat that we have. I know it's at least 2 hours into the game, because the people that got to preview the game and play like the first 2-3 hours didn't get to play this part. But you get to a part of the game where the Raft, it's a floating prison, kind of like Alcatraz in real life, where they house all the most dangerous criminals in town. The Raft gets attacked, or not attacked. There's a riot and people are breaking out, and that's where the Vulture, Rhino, Scorpion, Electro, and this mystery villain are all at, and they end up actually defeating Spider-Man, it looks like. At the very end, Spider-Man looks up and he's like, you guys have all seen it in the trailers. Most people think it's a villain. It could be a hero coming in to save Spider-Man. That could be how Spider-Man lives, but most people have agreed that it is most likely a villain, the sixth villain. Some people swear that it's Doc Ock. It's not Venom. Definitely not Venom. I can guarantee you it's not Venom. But, that's the Sinister Six, and in the comics, Doc Ock is known for making the Sinister Six. He's their leader in most of the Sinister Six stories. So, most likely it's Doc Ock. I imagine it probably is. I would be really hyped to see Doc Ock in the game. It would be such a cool boss battle with him. It would be amazing as long as they can get his voice acting down. I think it could be really interesting. Now, after Spider-Man's defeated on the Raft, and you have the Sinister Six running around New York, causing mayhem in New York. So Norman Osborn, who is the mayor of New York City in this universe, we don't know if he turns into the Green Goblin or not in this game. Who knows? That could be the sixth villain in the game. But because the Sinister Six is running around, Norman Osborn blames Spider-Man for it. and he hires Silver Sable and her goons to come into town and take care of Spider-Man Peter Parker for good. So I wouldn't say she's a villain. She's trying to do good for the city. She's more like Black Cat almost. She has her own agenda and she clashes with Spider-Man. Her voice acting, by the way, is like top notch from the one sentence we've heard her sing in the trailer. It is fucking incredible voice acting going on. It is awesome. So that is kind of about the extent of the story. You know, we have, at this point, we have the Sinister Six, Silver Sable all running around. We have the unconfirmed villain, or it could be a hero. It's most likely a villain, though, completing the Sinister Six. I think it's probably Dr. Octopus, but it'd be interesting. They've definitely left enough characters out of this game that we've seen so far for them to make a sequel. You know, there's Sandman, Aquaman, there's Venom, who would be, you know, the main character in a sequel, I imagine, if they decide to do a sequel. They've said on Twitter that there will be no symbiotes in the game, which means Venom won't appear at all. I don't know how much I believe about that. I think Venom could probably come up in DLC. If he's not in the main game, it'd be kind of cool to see him come up as DLC. But we'll see where they go with the symbiotes. This game seems kind of lighthearted almost, so I don't know if the darker Venom tone would fit with this. But they could definitely make a darker second game. I just don't want them to get too dark. It's not the Spider-Man story. It's not an Arkham game. But the Venom, the symbiote storylines have always been a pretty dark story. Now, for the last little bit of news here, just kind of wrapping things up, we have the DLCs, which has been confirmed for the game. Each pack, there's 3 packs. Each one will be $10, or you can buy them all at one time for $25. And the cool thing is that they already have it spaced out. It's not coming out like 5 months, 6 months down the road. There's one coming out in October, November, and December. So every month after the game comes out, there will be a new DLC coming out. Now, I don't know if this is confirmed or not, but the general census is that the first DLC is going to focus on Black Cat, which would be cool. I hope we get to play as her like you did in the Arkham games. It'd be cool to play as a different character other than Spider-Man in DLC. I would really like that. Even a Miles Morales DLC. You know, they could keep the combat and the web swinging the same. Just let us play as Miles Morales. That'd be kind of cool. And speaking of Miles Morales, I don't know why I didn't mention this. Maybe it's just because it's not too exciting to me, but just because he only seems to be a side character so far. But he's in the game. We've seen him in trailers. He's a side character. We don't know if he will become Spider-Man, if he'll take up the role of Spider-Man. There was a scene in the trailer where Mr. Negative touches Spider-Man inside of a helicopter, and when Mr. Negative touches someone, there's a brief part in the comics where Spider-Man becomes kind of evil because of Mr. Negative's touch. So we don't know if that will lead to Miles Morales taking up the role of Spider-Man. But in this universe, you know, there's no Miles isn't from a different Earth. He's from this world. He's always been in this world. He grew up admiring Spider-Man. So there's none of that cosmic stuff going on where there's, you know, world 52, world 51. Miles Morales has always been in this world with Peter Parker. And since we're talking about supporting characters, we've already discussed Aunt May a little bit working at Feast. But Mary Jane in this world, she's not an actor. She's actually the photographer that works for the Daily Bugle, and she goes out and you can actually play as her in some missions, and it's all stealth based and it looks kind of interesting. And then, you know, Peter Parker swoops in and saves her most of the time, I'd imagine. But there will be stealth parts in the game where you play as Mary Jane. You're kind of defenseless, I'd imagine, until Spider-Man comes in and saves you. But I guess I just didn't mention Miles Morales just because we haven't really seen much of him. He just seems like a supporting character. I definitely think if they make a sequel to the game, they could really flesh him out and possibly kill Peter Parker off if they ever come to that and replace him with Miles Morales. I hope they don't do that. Miles is a cool character, but Peter Parker is like my Spider-Man. He's most Spider-Mans. He's the OG Spider-Man. Just some housekeeping here. Spider-Man PS4 comes out September 7th, 2018. Exclusive for the PlayStation 4, developed by Insomniac Games. I am beyond hyped for this game. It is looking to be incredible, and I'm staying up all night, waiting until midnight for this game to come out. Yeah, it's going to be a rough Saturday, you know, having to go be at work at 7 a.m. on Saturday, but I don't give a fuck. I'm going to be up. I'm going to wait till midnight on Friday, play this game for 24 hours. It's going to be fucking great. I can't wait for this game. I am beyond hyped for this game. This is my most anticipated game of 2018. Right now, until I see more gameplay from Red Dead Redemption 2, Spider-Man is above Red Dead Redemption 2 on my list for most anticipated game of the fall of 2018. So that's about all I got for you guys. I know I missed some things. There's been a new little trailer, like a characters trailer that came out since I started making this video, and I have gone completely flat on the game. I don't want to know anything else. I feel like I've already spoiled a good amount of the game for myself. And if you just watched this story bit, you probably already had a little bit of it spoiled for you as well. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I spent a lot of time working on this video. I appreciate any and all of you that leave a like and subscribe. And thank you all so much for the support on the Last of Us video that I did. The support on that was absolutely fucking amazing, and it's what's encouraged me to make this video, and it's what's encouraged me to make the video after this. So thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys on the next episode.